Hi, and welcome to the Dingers Podcast, episode 52. This is your host, Mitch. I'm here with my boys, Jeff and Kevin. How are you guys tonight?
Oh, I'm just Andy. Thanks for asking. How are you guys?
Doing okay. We went to the pool today, and we took the kids, and my wife likes to sit in the sun. I like to sit in the shade of the pool, so we compromised and sat in the sun. So it was I sweat a lot. It was really hot at the pool today.
So did your whole family of gingers get sunburned like I do, or what?
No, we cake the sunscreen on.
I know how it is. You burn,
Mitch, how you
and
doing?
the freckles march together.
Yep, it looks like a tan from a distance.
I'm doing all right. It was a long weekend, and excited to talk to some baseball with you guys. This podcast is presented to you by ChiCitySports.com. If you're interested in all things Chicago sports, this is your place. Go check out the forums, all the great podcasts, ChiCitySports.com. Let's crack our beer. Player of the week, presented to you by Toppling Goliath Beer, Decorah, Iowa. Who you got for your player of the week?
Well, first off, I'm trying out the wonderful Soul Hunter Double IPA this week. It's a new one for me. Never had it. Check it out. My player of the week is Kyle Hendricks because he just keeps plugging away. He's got 6 quality starts in his last 7th, and he ranks second in the majors with 17 quality starts this season. And considering how this season has gone, for him to have that many quality starts, it's kind of big deal.
Yeah,
it is. Especially with the lack of run support that he's got most of the season. It's pretty impressive.
And starting the season rocky, like he's still
he was great for a little bit.
Jumping in again. First sip of the Soul Hunter. Tastes amazing. Loving it.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So my player of the week, I'm going with Swindell. He picked up a couple of hits in last night's ass beating. So, that's good to see. I, too, am trying the Soul Hunter, and I'm not an IPA guy.
So this will go interesting, folks. Enjoy the YouTube video. Watch the cringe.
See what happens here.
All right, my player of the week, I'm going Miners because, at this point, that's all we really got to look forward to. I'm going with Alexander Canario. So I think we won the Bryant trade this week. He hit 2 home runs this week, back-to-back games. Looks pretty good. His first one was an absolute tank. So you got to enjoy that while you can. Stuff to look forward to. So those are our players of the week. But tonight we want to welcome Tommy Birch, beat reporter for the Iowa Cubs on. So welcome, Tommy. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I feel like I should have wore blue. I've kind of missed the memo. Although I'm kind of going, I am kind of blending in blue and red. So
there we go.
Thank God I didn't wear purple.
Yeah. So if you want to follow Tommy, great on Twitter. If you're interested in anything or the Iowa Cubs, he's your guy. Live broadcast the games on Twitter of doing everything from stat lines to everything. So if you need any information, especially the next couple of years in our organization, we're going to need to keep up to date with the Iowa Cubs. He's your man. But this week in Iowa, we're all from Iowa. It's an exciting week in baseball, but especially exciting week for baseball in Iowa as we have the Field of Dreams game this week. So being a lifelong fan of not only the movie, but the site, Tommy, how excited are you to have baseball in the state of Iowa for the first time ever, Major League Baseball game?
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. It seems like it's kind of been a long time coming. They announced this game in 2019 and it was going to be in 2020, but then COVID-19 pushed it to 2021. So I feel like we've kind of been waiting for it for a long, long time. And, what's kind of funny is you mentioned the first game, first Major League game in Iowa, and it is. But I wrote about this last year. When this first came up that, the White Sox and Yankees were going to be coming to town, it reminded me of the time that the Chicago Cubs actually came to Des Moines. It would have been 1998 when Sammy Sosa was in the middle of the home run chase. They played an exhibition game at Sick Taylor Stadium, now Principal Park. But that was kind of wild. I believe that's the last time a Major League Baseball team has been in Iowa. Now, that game didn't count. This one at the Field of Dreams movie site is going to count, but it definitely brought back memories of that. Sosa homered in that game. Mark Grace homered in that game, and I believe Henry Rodriguez. They went like back to back to back, and then Sosa pretended to get ejected from the game. So this game is going to have some like high marks to try to live up to and follow that one.
Yeah. I mean, just seeing the pictures of the field and seeing everything. I mean, it's not Wrigley, it's not Fenway, it's not Yankee Stadium, but there's something just special about the Field of Dreams field. And then when you put a Major League Baseball field right behind it, I mean, if that doesn't make you want to go out and play catch with your son, like, I don't know what will. Like, it's beautiful, the way they built that in there. I love seeing the pictures. I'm sure you're excited to get out there. You had a chance to interview Rob Manfred. How did that go?
Yeah, it went pretty good. It went really quick too. I mean, we're pretty much just talking about the Field of Dreams game. I would love to have gotten into a lot of other topics, but that was kind of the main area we were going towards. And I thought it was kind of interesting that the Field of Dreams game had kind of been in the works for a long, long time, and he actually came to Dyersville in 2016 and visited the set the movie site as part of like a promotional tour for like some touring Hall of Fame exhibit. John Smoltz, who's actually going to be calling the game on Fox, was actually with him. And I thought it was kind of interesting. Like Rob Manfred, you really don't get to see much of a personal side to him. He's very, he's an attorney, I believe, and he kind of comes across as that attorney look to him. But I kind of found it interesting that he kind of I guess loosened the tie a little bit when we were talking and talked about how, when he was touring the movie site, he went to that window in the house where, Kevin Costner looks out and he sees Shoeless Joe Jackson. And he said, that was kind of an iconic moment for me where I was like, okay, we are making the right decision to bring this game to Dyersville. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that is a cool story. That's awesome.
Yeah, you don't see that much from Rob Manfred, and
nope.
I think that's part of the appeal that is the appeal of this game. Look, it's it's an 8,000 seat stadium in Dyersville, Iowa. They are not packing in the fans. Tickets are expensive. They're not cheap, but I will say this, this is an entirely different part of the conversation, but we'll say, when it comes to tickets, look, you kind of know what you're getting when you're getting a special event like this. But in the grand scheme of things, look, they aren't doing it to make a ton of money, or else this stadium would have been 20,000, seats and 8,000. They're trying to drum up some really good PR for Major League Baseball. And I think it's doing a really good job because look, this game is going to attract the interest of White Sox fans, Yankees fans, baseball fans, and then just movie fans, Field of Dreams fans, and maybe not even fans of any of that. People are just going to want to tune in and see like what the heck is going on. They're playing a baseball game in the middle of a cornfield.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of. I remember when they threw in the alternate jerseys in like NFL or whatever, and they saw a rating spike because they were like, "Well, what are they wearing now?" or whatever. Just imagine somebody who doesn't pay any attention to baseball, but they read the Des Moines Register and they saw, wait, they're playing a game at Field of Dreams, and they're gonna tune in that day and check it out.
You know what was kind of my favorite part of this whole thing is I remember when the game first got announced, and like no media members like to say this, that like, man, we were caught off guard. I would love to sit here and say like, man, I knew this game was coming. It's funny, I'd actually like emailed the owner of the Field of Dreams movie site, a couple of years before it was announced. I remember Rob Manfred saying, like during the Fort Bragg telecast, that they want to get baseball games to some unique locations. And I said to her, like, okay, my first thought is Field of Dreams. Is it coming here? And she said, oh, we haven't talked about it. So after that, I was kind of like, okay, maybe it's just never going to happen. But the morning the game was announced and I roll out of bed, I'm like, holy smokes, this is nuts. It was funny seeing like the lag in time between like people trying to figure out like, okay, this game is actually not being played on the diamond from the movie. This game is going to be played on a specially built park. I forget who the pitcher was. Maybe it was like Philip Hughes or somebody that looked up all the metrics of the park and how deep it was and was like, I hope I'm not pitching this.
Yeah. Gonna get rocked.
And they designed the new field kind of basing it a little bit off old Comiskey and putting like the bullpens in center field. If you see the pictures of it, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And I think, from my understanding is they're going to have like other kind of nods to the old Comiskey Park. And one of the cool things is like there's going to be some sort of like opening, I think, in the right field gate where basically the players come walking in from the cornfield onto the field, which will be pretty cool. And the whole idea from talking to the people from Major League Baseball is like they have some really grand plans that they just hope kind of naturally manifest during the game, of like guys going over there before the game to like warm up on the movie site field, which would be really cool.
Yep.
So do you think they'll plan to play a game there, kind of more on like a routine basis, and you think they'll change the teams that get to play there?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I say that because I've been asking that question. For a while there, so kind of how the timeline goes, as you guys probably know, is they originally had Yankees, White Sox, then COVID-19 kind of forced them to kind of switch gears and go White Sox Cardinals. I had heard during that time, in between announcing the change in schedule, that they were actually kicking around possibly like Cubs Cardinals or stuff like that. Now I know ultimately like Major League Baseball really wants this game to succeed because obviously it's a giant PR event, but if it goes well, I think they have their eyes on possibly bringing it back to Dyersville, and I think that opens up the door for all kinds of other matchups. Obviously, I think Cubs Cardinals. Part of the reason why we're hearing that during COVID-19 is the fact that you aren't going to have any fans at the game. I don't know if if in 2022 or 23 where you have packed stadiums, the Cubs Cardinals is going to be something that either one of those teams want to give up the gate on, but maybe you could see something like Cardinals Brewers, Twins White Sox, something like that. But
Twins Royals,
that's a good one too. Definitely two Midwest teams.
Yeah,
I think would be the key. But look, it's all indicative on how this game goes on Thursday night. If everything goes smoothly, the players are happy, everybody gets in and out of Dyersville, okay, the Yankees bus doesn't get caught behind a tractor.
Yep.
Then they're gonna leave the door open to coming back.
Well, they picked two great teams. I mean, two playoff contending teams. They're doing really, really well. I mean, they got lucky there that they have two contending teams. If they would put like the Cubs this year at this time, and the sell probably wouldn't have gone over as well. So
that would have been a bad time, man.
So I got one more question about the game. Do you think if Chris Sale was still a member of the White Sox, do you think he'd take a pair of scissors to the uniform, or do you think he'd wear that one?
Well, it really depends on if he's pitching that day. But I mean, those, at least I haven't heard, and I doubt they are, but it'd be really cool if those uniforms were like old school wool. where
Just hot.
which would just make it absolutely unbearable for guys in Iowa Heat. It's gonna be a night game, but when I've looked at the weather, I think it's supposed to be like high 80s, and you guys know high 80s in Iowa during the summer. That's like sticky.
Yeah,
Yep.
plus they're in a cornfield, which is like way worse.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not ideal weather for wool uniforms.
High 80s. The sun goes down. It goes down 2 degrees in the first 4 hours.
Stitch of breeze.
It won't do anything. Oh, yeah, no breeze. That just feels gross.
Nice. All right.
So it's been announced that Justin Steele is being called up from the Iowa Cubs and going to pitch on Tuesday, depending on the game tonight. Rain delay. The Cubs are under a rain delay right now. If he gets pushed back or what will happen with that. But right now he's scheduled to pitch tomorrow night versus the Brewers. What have you noticed while Steele's been down with the Iowa Cubs? I know he's just been killing it. What have you guys kind of noticed?
Yeah, to me, I was really surprised with how well he pitched. I was kind of the mindset of, look, Justin Steele has been in the minor leagues for a couple years. He's not a newcomer to the system by any means. He was, still a top 25 prospect, but kind of on the back nine of that where, especially with all the trades the Cubs made, he was on the verge of possibly falling off that list. And my thought was, look, the guy has dealt with injuries. He struggled in Double-A during his last time starting. You finally found something that worked with him pitching out of the bullpen. My thought was just keep at it. Keep that. It's working. You have found something with somebody you have invested some time and some money and a lot of energy, and so keep with that. So when he first came down and started getting stretched out, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was definitely pleasantly surprised. Not only did you have some really good velos in 96, 95, 96, I think he can get it up a little bit more depending, I think if he needs to go back and get it, but, command of his secondary stuff too, and just really attacking the zone. To me, for a guy that hadn't started all year, and now you're talking about pretty much, more than half of the year, it can be a little bit of an adjustment, especially last year too. Although I'd heard he was drawing some pretty rave reviews with how he was pitching out the alt site, but you really never know until you actually see it firsthand. But man, he was impressive, and I think that kind of gives you a little bit of hope of why you should maybe be optimistic about what the Cubs have. And I think part of the other thing I'll say, and I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but I'll say this, part of the thing too is, when it comes to Steele, I think part of the reason why they made that commitment, moving him from the bullpen to back to a starter, it's not just sheer stuff too. You see the stuff he has, but also like, man, I think this part plays a little bit in it where the Cubs want to say like, look, we have some pitching that we've drafted, we've developed, and we can move through the system. They've traded some of that other talent when it comes to guys like Dylan Cease and some other dudes. I think this is also an opportunity for the front office to say, look, we weren't just position player guys.
Yep. Yeah, I know we've been talking a lot about the last couple of weeks of just like us as Cubs fans, we need to kind of shift our focus and not look at the wins and losses. We need to focus on like right now, like Elzalay. Is he commanding his secondary pitches, and can he get left-handers out? Like can he develop a pitch that can get the left-handers out? Can he get the changeup to work? The slider obviously is not working, trying to bury that inside the lefties. And so with Steele, it's that's what we're going to be focusing on. His starts. How successful is he going to be coming up in lasting 5 to 6 innings and being able to command his secondary pitches and get major league batters out? And I think him being in the bullpen kind of showed him early on in the season that he does have the stuff to be able to get major league batters out. I think especially like that Dodgers game and extras and him getting hyped of striking that guy out in extras, like those are the things that confidence he needed. I know when we interviewed him that he talked a lot about that showed him that he has the stuff, the makeup to be able to be a major league quality pitcher. So that's huge. That's something for us as Cubs fans we need to be focusing on.
Yeah, and I think you do have plenty of optimism there. Like you had said, I think also I might be kind of the barometer when it comes to things like this, knowing that, like, okay, look, it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen in one season. Justin Steele's probably going to go up there, and he's going to have good moments. He's going to have tough moments. He's a young guy that hasn't even started a game in the big leagues yet. So, that comes with the territory of, developing young pitchers. That's part of the appeal of why the Cubs went the route that they did in the past, where their thought was like, okay, we're going to draft and develop a bunch of position players. We're going to go out and sign and kind of fill gaps with some of the starting pitching, knowing we're going to let other people put in the hard work when it comes to that,
Right.
where now I think they're kind of doing the other approach.
Yeah, which I'm kind of super excited to see some homegrown Cubs pitchers come up. Like, it really drives me nuts when we sign a top free agent for a bunch of money, and then he winds up he can't throw the ball to first or whatever.
What are you talking about again?
But you talk about shifting the focus, and Cub fans. I know you're very active on Twitter, and I read a tweet, like a response of yours to like a remind tweet about being designated for assignment when he comes off the injured list. And then like your response had something to talk about trading people are upset about trading the core three. Well, we were losing with the core three. So what's the difference if we trade them, get some investment back, some people that will make an impact in a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years, instead of letting them walk out the door at the end of the season and not get a single thing from them. It's just it just blows my mind that we're almost 2 weeks away, past this trade, and people are still right on the edge of the rooftop ready to throw themselves off of it.
I want to crack if I have a beer right now, I'd crack one to you, Jeff, because that's I didn't really think it's a hot take. I don't think it is a hot take. I think you guys are definitely smart enough to understand it, but it definitely a move like that definitely does come with emotion, of trading those guys. But I thought it was kind of interesting hearing people say, like, well, of course they aren't going to win because they didn't have the pitching around them. Well, the pitching wasn't going to matter if you aren't scoring any runs. I think back to I'm a Twins fan. I think back to the Twins team of Francisco Liriano and Johan Santana. Those guys were, pitching one hitters and losing 1-0. Well, it's great throwing shutout, or it's great, giving up one run, but you still got to be able to score.
Yep.
Right.
So what can you tell us about Keegan Thompson?
Yeah, Keegan Thompson's another guy that, I find pretty interesting too, where I don't think the whole process is going to take him probably as long to get stretched out as Justin Steele, because you look at the numbers when he was up in Chicago, look, he was going 3 innings, sometimes 4. He was throwing, I looked back on it. I think he had a couple outings where he was throwing like 40, 50, and I think he even got up to 60 pitches. And when I talked to him the other day, it was just like, I don't think this is going to really take too long. Now, that's him thinking that, obviously the Cubs have their entirely other, their plan set, and, they are in a big, movement to rush him, because look, it was already tough enough kind of finding a spot for Justin Steele. You're having to make up this 6-man rotation. I think you can. There is a move to be made here if you want Keegan Thompson up there, and I think you talk about letting go of stars. We can have the Jake Arrieta conversation, but man, Keegan's got some good stuff where he's not going to really light up the radar gun with 98, 99, that type of velo, but he's got good stuff, good movement, and a good array of pitches. I just haven't seen him that much. That's what kind of sucks for me, is I want to see him more in person. I think I'm going to have plenty of shots, but He's got some really good stuff too. Where, I think that entire Iowa Cubs pitching staff. At one point where you had Justin Steele, Keegan Thompson. I think kind of the forgotten guy. One of the guys I'm most impressed about is Corey Abbott. Like Corey Abbott's not put up great numbers. The ERA is up there. He's given up some hits, a lot of runs. But you look at his strikeout numbers, and they are just through the roof. And that tells me, he's got swing and miss stuff. You got swing and miss stuff, you've got a really good chance. And I think Corey Abbott's got as good of a chance as anybody. Where he just has one bad inning that just absolutely kills him. So between Steele, Thompson, and Abbott, and haven't even got to the bullpen, a couple guys there. Man, there are some arms to be excited about.
That's pretty cool. I'm going to switch it up a little bit. His time at Iowa was pretty short. You probably didn't get to see him a whole lot. But what should we kind of expect, or what did you notice about Greg Dykman?
Man, he puts together great at bats. I think it was maybe his first or second at bat in Iowa. He had like a 10-pitch at bat where, he fouled off like 4 straight pitches, and just battled, when he was behind with 2 strikes. So, he kind of epitomizes what I think the front office has kind of done here, where, man, they've gone really contact heavy when it comes to the trade deadline. It's almost like Jed heard everybody saying, like, are you sick and tired of us striking out? Fine. I will go get guys. They're going to get on base and they're going to put the ball in play. And that's what Greg Dykman is. And Greg's got some power. Now, he hasn't really showed it off this year. And I think there were some red flags when it comes to that, especially when I think he was in Vegas before. And that's definitely a hitter-friendly park where I think all of us could probably hit a couple of bombs out there, but he chalked it up to just, hey, it'll eventually come. And I think you eventually will see that. You're seeing doubles. You're seeing some, just in that short time in Iowa, saw 4 or 5 different balls that, like, I thought were like maybe in a year or two, they're going out of the park as he gets older, as he gets more mature and gets more at bats in him, where you see that all the time with some of those young guys where, eventually those doubles end up transforming into homers. So great hitter with a ton of power potential too. So fun guy.
Nice.
Yeah, we've seen Schwindel playing a lot of first base with the Chicago Cubs. Alfonso Rivas, what can we expect out of him, and will we see him in Chicago ever this year?
I think you will. I think Frank Schwindel was probably just a holdover right now while you get Rivas some more at bats, some more experience, some more playing time in Iowa. I think Schwindel is just kind of that guy just to have up there right now. Rivas got some legit pop in there, which I think will excite some fans. But he's still relatively young, although he's not that young. I think he's 24, 25. Mm. So I think at some point you're going to want to get a good look at him in Chicago, because why not? Also, he hasn't been around for a long time, but he's been around long enough that I think you want to give him that challenge. And I think lately he's definitely swung a pretty good bat. Maybe I don't know if the numbers really show that, but the pop is in that bat too.
So now, what you're saying is Schwindel is the 2021 version of Micah Hoffpower?
I was kind of thinking he is
Brian LaHare.
I was thinking like Mike Olt.
There we go.
People forget Mike Olt, man. I mean, and that guy was a legit prospect too, but he was just a holdover for that Chris Bryant dude.
Talking about a legit prospect, we're all excited about the arrival of Brennan Davis in an Iowa Cubs uniform, and soon a Chicago
Me
Cubs
too,
uniform.
man. I need some more prospects here.
Do you think we'll see him this season? When we talked to Brian Smith from Bleacher Nation, who does a lot of prospects, he didn't think that we would see him this year. We would probably see him beginning next year, and then he'd get the call up in June possibly. What do you think? Do you think we'll see him this year in an Iowa Cubs uniform?
I think there's a shot. It really depends if he keeps hitting like he's hitting right now. I mean, he started off really hot, kind of hit a wall. Now he's kind of gotten hot again. If he stays hot, look, I think you got to reward the guy. But here comes the caveat with it. I think if we see Brennan Davis in Des Moines, it's going to be the very end of the season where the AA season is over, and now AAA baseball has got this thing.
What 2 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, the final stretch. They're going to bring him up for the final stretch, the 10-game stretch. I think if we see him in Iowa, that's probably going to be the time. But otherwise, before that, I think I'd be a little surprised. I guess I wouldn't be shocked if he spends all the season in AA. But I mean, he's a guy that got an invite to that got an invite to spring big league spring training, ended up being at the alternate site. So even though this his first AA season, I kind of put like a a little mark by it, because those two other situations are legit at bats that you aren't going to get anywhere else. So if he keeps hitting, I think he'll force their hand to bring him up at the end of the year. That puts them in a good situation where it's like, okay, look, he's only got 10 games in Iowa. The problem is when you bring him up to AAA, then you're just moving the conversation to when does he get to Chicago? Right now the conversation is when does he get to Iowa? Who really cares about that? Mostly us in Iowa.
Yeah.
And I think some of the diehard, Cubs people that really pay attention to what's going on. But I think to probably the average Cubs fan, until you bring a guy to AAA, they aren't really worrying about him being, on the radar of a big league team. That changes the conversation entirely. 10 games in Iowa, you reward him. You also say, like, look, going into next year, we're going to start Brennan Davis in Des Moines. We'll see how he does and then go from there. But dude's only got 10 games. Let's pace ourselves.
Yep.
Right.
Sell some tickets.
Yeah.
Write some stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's fill the seats. But where are we with Rowan Wick's rehab?
I think he is really close to being back. He's hit 95, 96, I think touching 97. His off-speed stuff looks good. He was attacking the zone the other night. I think he threw. The last couple of days are just a blur to me outside of Field of Dreams. But I think he threw like 12 pitches, 9 strikes. I mean, he's attacking the zone. The velos were they want it to be. I think really the only thing, there are probably 2 things that, you have to consider when it comes to Rowan Wick is, well, he also has not, he's been hurt the entire year. That's a long time. So you want to take your time with him, especially during a season where you theoretically don't need him in Chicago. On the other hand, I do think maybe you do want to get him to Chicago relatively soon to see where he fits into the back end of that bullpen. Is he a 7th inning guy? Is he an 8th inning guy? Is he a possible closer? You've got some guys that you can audition for that role. We saw the Cubs kind of give Manny Rodriguez a little bit of a look. That's not to say, when Manny struggled a little bit in that 9th inning role, it's not to say he won't get another shot at it, because I think right now you give everybody a shot at it. But Rowan Wick to me is a guy that you eventually take a look at when it comes to that closer conversation. But he's on the 60-day injured list right now. So when you go and get him, you're going to have to make a room move. Now, I kind of say that tongue in cheek because look, there are plenty of guys I think the Cubs would be okay DFAing right now that you're not having to worry about like you were pre-trade deadline, but still it is a move you're going to have to make.
Yep,
that's true.
I think he is ready though. If you want to bring him up, I think that last two outings, he's looked as probably as good as you're gonna get. And I will say this: when it comes to Rowan Wick, like Rowan, you can't just dangle around in AAA. He's a guy that earned his shot in the big leagues. Now it's just coming back from an injury. Like when he's ready, I think you gotta go get him.
Yep.
Nice. So we've got, obviously we're on a podcast. We're a fan of podcasts. You've got the Compound podcast and a fan favorite, Dakota Mekas. Do you think we're going to see him up in Chicago at some point this year?
It's a really good one. No, I don't. Which is too bad. I have, as an unbiased media member, I've been on the Dakota Mekas bandwagon for a while now, where it would have been 2-3 years ago when he first came up. He flew through the system. And, I remember like we were talking about like, man, he could be a September call-up guy early in his career. They ended up struggling 2 years ago. And then, I can't remember I think he was at the All-Site last year, but he lost a ton of weight. Came back this year, pitched really well, and the Cubs had to make some moves, and they sent him to Double-A. And then a couple days later, they brought him back. But I think that's kind of a telltale sign that, like, look, I think in the grand scheme of things, this is the simplistic answer when it comes to Dakota Mekas. He's got great stuff, really good stuff. I think the best thing about Dakota Mekas is he's a big dude. He's deceptive. And I think when you see a guy of his size, you're thinking that guy's going to throw 97, 98, 99. I think that's what the Cubs were probably thinking. They were going to get out Dakota Mekas when they drafted him and never did. Well, Dakota has still gotten outs. He's still getting outs too. I just think that they have been, and this is my own personal theory. I haven't talked to anybody too in depth. This is kind of me having casual conversations with other people, and kind of the impression I get is that, they aren't seeing the velo that they really want out of him. And that's why. And, Dakota has not only been sent down to Double-A and brought up, but he's been Rule 5 eligible a couple of times. And, the Cubs didn't protect him, and somebody else didn't get him. So, it's when it comes to the Rule 5 draft, there are just so many other guys that you can go after, and you can't protect everybody. But if you would have told me like 3 or 4 years ago that Dakota Mekas hadn't been in the big leagues by now, I would have been absolutely shocked. But I'm kind of at a point where I think like, okay, if it hasn't happened now, I don't know if it will. Now I say that now knowing like, look at what Chicago is just trying out so many different things and looking at so many different guys. If it doesn't happen this year, it really won't happen probably for Dakota Mekas in Chicago, which is too bad because I think he is definitely a guy that is worthy of getting a look.
He's got to be better than Trevor McGill.
I mean,
they're like the same guy, big, tall guys.
Yeah.
McGill has the velo, but he can't get anybody out. At least Mekas can get guys out.
Exactly, and I think we just get so caught up, in the velo, and that probably is the ultimate killer. But we have seen a couple of times with Mekas where he'll pump it up to 95. I think he's touched 96. Maybe if he gets up to St. Paul to that really hot radar again, he might touch 97. But I mean, he's getting dudes out. It's like you said, who cares? You're getting guys out. Who cares how?
Right. Do it consistently, and we like it.
Yeah.
So considering the trade deadline that just passed, what was it like covering the Cubs during the last rebuild process, and do you see any differences between then and now, as they say?
Wow, I think it's too early to tell if it's a different or the same. I still think the Cubs are trying to navigate what they have and what they've gotten. I will say the last rebuild was a lot of fun because, I mean, man, I had Bryant Baez, Russell, Almora, Schwarber. I mean, like some big name dudes. Like I remember my favorite story is I told I tell this people a lot. Like I remember like I think it was like Bryant Baez and like Soler that were out on the field during batting practice. And I took a picture of it and somebody had said to me like, dude, you get Manny Ramirez in that picture and we'll send you a pizza from Chicago. And like 2 minutes later, Manny Ramirez comes strolling out. So whoever that dude is, he still owes me a pizza.
Yeah. Yep.
But it was so much fun. And I thought, Mitch, what you were saying at the start of the episode, like, okay, a lot of people are going to be focused on what's going on in the minors. That's what it kind of reminds me of right now, where it's like people were so focused on what those guys were doing. They didn't care at all what was going on in Chicago. And I think we aren't quite to that point yet because part of the thing, too, is we also don't have like those real big marquee prospects. There are some really good prospects in the system right now, but when you look up and down those names of prospects, and this is a question for all you guys, is there a guy that you're like, okay, that's the staple. That guy is who you build the entire team around. There isn't that Chris Bryant. There isn't that, Javi Baez, so to speak. And maybe you already have that player in Chicago with Contreras, but it doesn't feel like that. Not to say that it can't in a year or two from now.
It's hard because there are so many young guys.
Yeah.
They're like 18, 19. Like if they like the Kevin Alcantara that they got just in the trade. Like he has the makeup and everything that he could be really amazing, but he's really skinny. He kind of looks like Alfonso Soriano. It's going to be, how is he going to develop? How's his body going to grow? And all those things that it's hard to say right now, who are those guys that we're going to build around? I mean, right now, all we have is Brennan Davis. Like, yes, he's the guy that all eyes are on, I think. And so we're getting really excited, but there's a lot of guys that I think are going to fill roles within this team. And that's going to be, they're going to have a ton of cash. The Cubs are going to have a ton of cash to go out and maybe get another guy to play alongside a Contreras or play alongside maybe in the starting rotation of Hendricks. That's what they can do. So
I think that's the best point. What you made there is that's the difference right there is, between that rebuild and the last, this rebuild and the last rebuild, like last rebuild, so many of these guys were proven commodities given what they had done at a more experienced level. Schwarber was a college bat. Bryant was a college bat.
Yep.
I'm trying to think who else, obviously Baez and Almora weren't, but that was a previous, I think Almora was their first, Theo's first draft pick. But these guys are,
Baez was a holdover from like Henry's days.
I mean, these are all way younger dudes that you have no idea on, but that's also a good point. Brennan Davis may be the guy that you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I want to see Nick Madrigal get on the field because putting him and Nico together, I think, will be interesting. And then you throw in Contreras in the mix, and you've got a pretty solid kind of base to go from there, knowing that you're going to have guys like Brennan Davis and a few other folks moving up the system. And they've got the cash, like Mitch said. Hopefully they go out and do something with it.
And that's where they have the guys that can make contact. Now in free agency, they can go out and get the power bat. They can go out and get the
one or two.
Nelson Cruz or like whatever that. I mean, he's DH, but they can go get the guy like Trevor Story, or we've talked about all the names that are in the free agency list the next 2 years that we could go out and get a Seager, a Simeon, or whatever to be able to fill in for a little bit of a power bat. So. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this rebuild, how long it's going to take. I mean, there's a lot of questions. but it gets us excited.
Speaking of DH, Manfred didn't say that anything, about that when you talked with him, did he?
No, we didn't get around to that. that would have been next on my my question. But people I talk to around baseball think that's eventually going to happen. So, I'm shocked it hasn't happened
Right.
yet. So maybe that's something with the new CBA we see coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, the new CBA. I just saw, I think it was Buster Olney reported that Manfred, he's heard people talk about that they want to do a 14 team playoff next year. They want to try to get that in CBA. I was like, I don't think the players are going to go for that unless, I don't know. There's a lot of things that it's going to be interesting.
Unless they're all getting postseason incentive bonuses.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, well, we won't take too much any more of your time. Tommy, thank you so much. We're excited to kind of follow you. If they can follow you, where should they follow you on Twitter? What's your handle?
At Tommy Birch. That's BIRCH, not the U. Who is it? Matt Birch, who's been up and down between Iowa. Yep. He spells it wrong.
Yeah, so if you want to follow him, I mean, anything going on with the Iowa Cubs, he's your man. And this week with the Field of Dreams game, he's going to have a lot of reports, a lot of articles he's going to be publishing. So go check him out. And thanks for joining us this week there, Tommy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
coming out, Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have fun in Dyersville.
Yeah, thanks for having me. If you ever need anything, let me know.
Awesome. See you later.
Tommy.
Take care.
All right, yeah, that was Tommy Birch, Des Moines Register, and reports with the Iowa Cubs. So, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Field of Dreams game. I think growing up being a fan of baseball, and you watch that, and now you have your own. Like, I have a kid, 3 kids. Kevin has some kids. Like that whole playing catch with your son at Field of Dreams. It's kind of like that's like something that you look forward to, and that's something I'm looking forward to, taking my kid there when they're both old enough to actually play catch. So yeah, it's just a great thing that Major League Baseball is doing, and that they're doing it in Iowa, and for us being Iowa was exciting.
I really think they're doing it right. The way that they built the stadium, so it's small. It's going to be, not everybody's going to get to go, and tickets are going to be expensive. I think I ran across some. It was like $8,000 a ticket.
Yeah,
on StubHub. But I think they're just trying to create a unique experience. Baseball in a cornfield in a small town in Northeast Iowa.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think it really has the soft touch of something that'll be really fun to see for years to come. They didn't build the giant stadium. It's going to be that it's a small venue. You feel it's like you're going out to a high school game, back when everybody was playing then, but you're seeing, the Yankees and the Sox this year.
I want to see on Vegas, what the odds are, or what the betting is on how many rows deep is Judge gonna hit a dinger? How many corn rows deep is he gonna hit a dinger? 20 rows deep, 30 rows deep. How far is this ball gonna go? Those things, those need to be prop bets.
How far did it fly? All the way to the end rows.
All the way to the original site of. But yeah, I have something that we're gonna start just because it's been fun following Cubs Twitter the last couple weeks, and so we have some tweets of the week that I've found on Cubs Twitter. Nice. So the first one is this one, watching the Cubs these days, and it's Saved by the Bell, the new class, a picture of that. And if you've ever watched Saved by the Bell, and then when they brought in the new class, that's basically what it was. It's it's kind of the same. It's the same location, but none of the same characters.
Right. They're wearing pretty much the same clothes, but
it's kind of
that guy's got similar hair, but it's not quite right.
It's not Zach Morris. Where's Screech? Dang it. I want Screech in there. That kid is definitely not Screech. It's kind of like when Fresh Prince of Bel-Air switched out Vivian, and you're like, wait, that's not Swindell is definitely not Rizzo. Our other tweet of the week is from Nick G, and this is like the best. I thought this was the best tweet. You guys remember like a month ago when our biggest problem was Eric Sogard in the lineup? Simpler times. LOL. Hashtag Cubs together or Cub together. I loved it. That's it right there.
Right.
Like
That
we
was like
complained
Cubs Twitter for 2 months.
playing about Eric Sogard, and now we would kill to have Eric Sogard playing second base.
Hey, I got something to confess. It totally hadn't hit me that he hadn't been in the lineup forever.
Yeah, he kind of got He got DFA'd shortly before the
The
storm
trade
hit.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my.
thought that he got DFA'd like 9 days before the trade deadline, and usually it's 10 days for him to like sign with another team or like a trade. And I thought he wasn't going to sign, and then he was going to get the option to report to Iowa. He was going to report to Iowa for 1 day, and then they were going to call him up. I thought that's how it was going to play out, but it didn't. Other things that we want to talk about is this Dinger situation in Colorado. Did you guys hear about this?
Yes, I did see that. I tell you what,
It's not good for our brand.
it's not
No.
good for the brand. It is not. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that need to have their hearing checked. Yeah, I mean, I watched the video and I heard what other people had heard, and I'm like, why is nobody in the stands like getting irate about this guy yelling that word? And then when it came out today that he was yelling at the mascot, and I watched it again, I'm like, oh, yes, now I hear Dinger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's not saying that word.
Yeah, that's what I was like, okay, if he's really saying that, people around him have to be like telling him, like, dude, like, knock it off, or like confronting him, something would be going down.
Well, and you
But
would
then
have in the broadcast the people around him like just giving the weirdest and horrified looks.
Time to go get a hot dog.
Yep. Somebody stand up pouring a beer over his head, like.
But yeah, like today, I listened to it again, and you're like, oh yeah, he's definitely saying Dinger. And so, yeah, wasn't too good for the brand today. So I had to do some covering of our tracks, like, hey, it's Dinger. And I just played the kid's voice of, I'm just here to hit dingers and have a good time. You know,
Gosh, I love that kid.
Right. It's weird that kid was holding that cup like a spitter.
Right?
And
I
it looked
always
like he
think
had a
that.
chew in.
I always think that, but then I've got to wonder, like, he's probably chewing Big League Chew, and he always sees guys having like cups to spit in. But every time I'm like, he's got a pretty big bit of chew in there.
Oh, we got a Facebook user that's at the game with an umbrella, or he's waterlogged.
Well,
In
it's
the game-
postponed now.
And the game got postponed. So too bad. Sorry, bro. Hopefully you can make the game tomorrow.
Yep.
Hope he went to the concession stand. and got his
My last
shirt on.
question for tonight's episode is, so we just got swept by the White Sox, and the weekend just sucked.
Who? Sorry. No, what?
But at the same
Was it-
time, what?
The Broncos Sox.
Wasn't there that one tweet that was like, oh gosh, the advertising show, Mad Men,
Oh, the
where
meme I
he's
sent
in the
you guys
elevator.
this
Is yeah. The one that that was the one you said. The White Sox guy's like, oh, we beat you. Who are you? Are you talking to me?
Well, we lost 3 and got swept, and it's like, this sucks. I hate losing to the White Sox. It's just bad. But at the same time, do we as Cub fans now want to fly the W as much as possible?
You
We
mean
still have
fly
the story-
L?
Or the L, I mean, fly the L as much as possible? Because, I mean, we still want storylines. We still want Elzalay to do well. We want Hendricks to get 20 wins. There's still things that we want to see development in our players, but every loss brings us a better draft pick.
That's
right.
what I was trying to find. There's a Bleacher
So-
Nation article where they've like started breaking it down. We're 2 games behind the 9th pick, and we're 4.5 games behind the 6th pick. And
Yeah,
stuff
like, I
awesome.
tweeted, I'm like, hopefully we can
Anyway.
get the wild card spot and beat out the Pirates. Like,
Yep.
No, I think right now, I think the season's scrapped. I mean, you're not playing for a postseason spot. So you might as well play as many of these young players as you can and try to figure out what you got going into next spring. Because I'll tell you what, here in about another probably 36 hours, people are going to be talking about free agency when that's not going to happen until like November 3rd, when you can actually, and then really nothing's going to happen until after the winter meetings in February. Or so it's just, I'd play what you have, see what you got, and then go to work as soon as the season's over and figure out what you need, what holes you got to fill with some journeymen to get through next year.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is it too early to start looking at the draft class for next year? I mean,
Right.
I tell
is this
you what,
is this the NFL?
is anyone else fucking annoyed that every time there's a draft, the next day there's always an article, the way too early, 2022 NBA draft? Who gives a shit? It's the fucking NBA, for Christ's sake.
Right.
They draft 60 people, everybody else is fucked.
That's what when Tommy was talking about Manfred kind of being the lawyer and like you never see him like take his tie down. Then I think of the guy who's the NFL guy. Oh, I feel like we see him all the time.
Mel Kiper?
No,
The commissioner.
the commissioner. Yep.
Goodell.
Anyway, Roger Goodell. I feel like you see him as an NFL fan all the time, and you don't see Manfred, or if you do, it's just like him ducking between cars and into buildings or whatever. But I think that's because the NFL draft is something you actually watch, and nobody really watches the MLB draft.
I watched it.
Oh
well, I
shit! A year ago, everybody tuned in to see him in his own basement calling picks.
Yeah, right.
There was nothing else to watch.
It's true.
Well, yeah, I think it's right now. The more we lose, the better. Get better draft pick. Keep trying to get that wild card draft pick spot. Maybe we can win the division and beat out the Pirates and get that number 3 pick. That's what we're shooting for. Let's go us. All right. Well, that does it for episode 52 of the Dingers podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Dinger Cubs. Yeah, but thanks for joining us this week on the Dingers podcast.
Brought to you by Toppling Goliath Brewery.
Hey, and I'll tell you what.